welcome to a brand new episode of Look Forward. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co-host, Brad.
You know what's funny is that this is probably the fullest docket I've ever seen. And yet I'm not sure how much time some of these stories are going to get, because I feel like we're going to be stuck on this first topic for a while.
Yeah, I'm going to try to keep it, keep us in a timely manner on the first topic, though I think it deserves a lot of airtime. Only because I just did a 40-minute episode on a preview episode for Black on Black Cinema about the very topic. So you can listen to that if you want some more of my thoughts. This is a pretty heavily packed episode. I'll just start out before we even get into like the super serious crazy shit. A lot of stupid this week. A lot of crazy. Jimmy Dore is a MAGA chode now. Dude, we told you.
Oh, is that official?
I mean, he's basically backing MAGA because he's anti-war. Yes, Donald Trump, the famously anti-war president, right? As he was shoveling
Donald the Dove,
yes,
who bragged about killing various Iranian leaders and things of that nature, like that guy.
The guy who wanted to fire missiles into Mexico and blame them on another country, or fire them into Russia, was it? And then blame China for it. Donald the Dove, or Donald the guy who funneled billions of dollars to the Saudis to continue bombing Yemen.
Yeah,
the Dove. Jimmy Dore's an idiot. Please don't listen to that guy. Next up, let's get right into it. So there was obviously the huge news this week is the mass shooting that happened in Buffalo, New York. 10 people were killed. I believe 3 others were injured when an 18-year-old white nationalist who believed in replacement theory, which we'll talk about, obviously, decided to drive to a predominantly or a large black population near him and gun down black people because he was under the impression that black people were going to, quote, replace him as a white person in this country. Of course, replacement theory is a ridiculous, it's not really a theory, but it's a ridiculous mindset that black and Latin folks are being set up to take over and replace white people. Of course, all orchestrated by the Jews, because of course. And this is a way to get Democrats more power and to eliminate these, hardworking, good-natured white people for reasons.
Yeah.
For reasons.
And before we dive into it, what I found interesting is that Saturday night, like Sunday, like the Republican line was instinctively to go from like the gun angle. They're like, oh shit, another mass shooting. Like, we're going to have to get out there and defend guns right away, because they thought that was going to be the attack pattern that Democrats went on. And what I found interesting is that the Democrats are just like, we're past that at this point. Like, we've had enough of these that you guys know the deal there. Like, we have a bigger problem at hand. And it's this manifesto that this dude put out, which was cribbed, like 2/3 of it was cribbed from the Christchurch shooter in New Zealand a couple of years ago.
Oh,
and then he put his own little, white nationalist spin on it. It's really fucking tragic. But this was by design. Like, he intentionally went to a black neighborhood and he intentionally went to a supermarket, according to the shooter, because he wanted black people to feel unease wherever they went. Right. Like, just doing regular, normal stuff. Yeah,
look, like I said on our preview episode for Black on Black Cinema, I'm tired of being tired, right? Like, I'm not indifferent to the situation. Obviously, I take it very personally for obvious reasons. If you can see my face, it's black. But there's another aspect to this, which is we like is the political aspect, right? Like, this is a very deeply political issue. I don't care what Tucker Carlson says. He's just trying to remove himself from the situation. But this is deeply political, right? He says, it's not political at all. This guy's crazy. It's not political, which is bullshit. When you write the N-word and you write 14 on your gun before you go kill black people, 14 signifying the 14 words of, like, white supremacy, protecting white children and white women nonsense. When you write those kind of things on your gun as you go to purposefully kill minorities in this country, it is a deeply political thing, because racism in this country is deeply political. Mm-hmm. But you're right. This idea that the Democrats are like, yeah, we're not talking about taking anybody's guns. Like, this is an issue that reaches so far past that, that we need to talk about that. And it is funny to watch Republicans. They're like, they already threw up their shields of like, fuck you, don't take our guns. And everyone's like, can we talk about this other thing? Because we already know you don't budge on that. So, like, it's useless, right? They're just throwing a brick at a brick wall, basically. It's stupid. Like, you don't give a fuck about 20 kids getting killed at Sandy Hook. You're not going to give a fuck about 10 black people getting killed in Buffalo. So what are we having the argument about that for? So but I am tired of being tired. It is not lost on me. Like I said, this is deeply political. It's not lost on me that this comes at a time, this kid, and he is a kid, right? Whatever you think of him, and you should think terrible things about what he did. He's a kid, and it is not lost on me that this comes at a time where the Republican Party is quite literally working overtime to not teach young people about American history, right? In his manifesto, and I don't want to give his name, and I'm not going to.
I don't even know the kid's name. So
yeah, it's in the article, but I'm not going to give his name because I don't think he deserves any sort of celebrity. I will give the names of some of the victims, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But like I said, it's not lost on me that this guy, like, this comes at a time where we're not 50% of this voting country is talking about not teaching people the history of this country. Like, in his manifesto, he talks about how, black people receive $700,000 a year in government assistance. What black people? Like, what are you talking about? Right? If that were true, we'd all be doing a lot better than we are. Like the old Chris Rock joke, if white people are losing, who the fuck is winning? Right? Like what are you talking about? But that's all drawn from like 4chan memes and like troll memes and shit like that. None of this shit is true. None of it is accurate. It's just nonsense. But we don't, like, look, I realize, because I'm not a moron, like, I realize that critical race theory is not taught in high schools, right? That is a law school class. But if we're talking about the Republican definition of what critical race theory is, which is just teaching kids about American history, and teaching them to critically think about American history, which apparently scares them, this is exactly what happens when you don't. Is kids get shit filled in for them on the internet by trolls, by other idiots, by people who are just trying to fill their head with bullshit to get them on their side. They don't know, right? Like, that kid, and I don't know anything about that kid's, like, sort of personal mental history. I mean, there's certainly indications that he was not a stable kid, like, even outside of this. But those kids are primed to be taken advantage of by people who think it's just funny to tell people any sort of bullshit, right? Because some of those, a lot of those people who troll and shit like that, they just do it as like a fun, like, let me say the most like outlandish shit I can on 4chan. But there are people who do those memes and write those like bullshit articles for the sole purpose of getting people agitated and angry and on their side. And when you have somebody who maybe not the most critically savvy person, or a person who has some, neurotypical issues, they might buy into that shit and then say, all right, cool, let's fucking ride. Right.
Well, literally, like, this kid said that, like, he fell into this and discovered this stuff because he was bored during the pandemic. And, it's one thing for them to be on, like, these shit posting sites and things of that nature, like your 4chans and stuff like that. But the problem with this specific like replacement theory angle is that it is spreading out to the mainstreams of the party because it's the natural evolution of a fervent anti-immigration stance. Like when one of your planks is built on stopping brown people from coming into the country from the southern border and being against, immigration to America. This is the natural next step is you're going to, as your views and as your beliefs tend to veer more extreme and more far right, it doesn't just become, like there's too many Mexicans coming over the border. It's, Democrats are literally busing Mexicans in because they want to gain voting power, which is also telling on themselves quite hysterically. Like they're just like, Democrats want to get more votes. And I'm just like, I don't know if you know much about the folks that come up from like Central and South America, but those people,
mad Catholic,
like those people are actually probably quite conservative in their views. And if you had a more welcoming party platform, that would be quite advantageous for you. As we've said on this show many times before, George Bush literally won the Latino vote twice in two separate elections, and that was only, it
wasn't
20 years ago.
Right? It wasn't 50 years ago.
The fact that that's where this has gone, and then you have people on the right, not just Tucker Carlson, but literally people who are in elected positions of power, like the third most powerful Republican in the House of Representatives, parroting this stuff and trying to disguise it as, something more high-minded than what it is. But at the end of the day, it is just this thing. It's like, Democrats want immigrants to flood over the border because they want to build political voting power. And they're trying to, diminish the power of white people in this country. And they're not coming out and saying that so explicitly, but it doesn't take very much reading of subtext to figure out what's going on there.
It's there, like we're barely past subtext. Like we're almost at text, right? Like, and it's, people like Stefanik and stuff like that have tried to really kind of roll back what they've been saying in campaign ads and things like that, which is basically that. Like Democrats are just, they're practically bussing these people in to, to get more voting power. And it's like, you are playing very fast and loose with this game. And here's the thing. I think Republicans, and when I speak on Republicans, I mean Republican politicians. I'm not talking about Republican voters at this moment. Republican politicians absolutely know what replacement theory is. They absolutely know that there is an anti-immigrant fervor in their party. And we know that because they play to it, right? Mm-hmm. They just like to play up to the line. Like they just like throw that red meat out there. As long as that red meat is developing voters and getting voters to come out and getting angry and coming out and voting for them, they're fine with it. The second any of those voters decide to do what this guy did, then they go, like that's not what we were saying. But they know, right? There is a calculated risk of how much red meat you can throw before you get actionable violence.
I don't even think that they're trying to pretend anymore. There was a significant lack of contrition, a significant lack of empathy coming out from Republicans in the wake of this news this past weekend. Like I could not find very many people, Republicans, that were just putting out statements of, regret and
not a lot. That's not to say there aren't some, but like here's where you're not going to hear it mostly. Not from like new young Republicans, like new hotshot Republicans. You're not going to hear, like you might hear some like thoughts and prayers type shit, but you're not going to hear some like, wow, that's like a really good, thoughtful message from like a Marjorie Taylor Greene. You're not going to hear it from there.
Yeah.
You're not. And it's because they don't care. And again, it's playing right up to the line of where you benefit. It's a cost benefit analysis, right? It's like, how much dirty shit can we do and get votes and support back before somebody does something the American public completely pulls back on and goes, whoa, that's too much, right?
Yeah.
And they're riding that line, and every day they push that line further and further and further just to see how far they can go. right now. Apparently, you can go pretty far before shit like this happens. But now you've kind of triggered it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There will be more of this, unfortunately.
Oh, sure.
This kid is not going to be the only one. But I do want to give, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge some of the people who were killed. Because, I want to acknowledge the tragedy that happened to them more than what this guy did. Retired Buffalo police officer Aaron Salter Jr., 55. He worked as a security guard at the grocery store. Ruth Whitfield is 86-year-old grandmother of 8. Celestine Chaney, 65, was just going to the grocery store to pick up strawberries to make shortcake. Roberta Drury, 32, was getting food for dinner. Hayward Patterson, 67, was killed while helping put groceries into another shopper's car. And there are obviously others. Look, if you want me to say what I really like, how I really super feel about this, like to get a little bit more extreme on it, the argument for guns is bullshit at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's bullshit. It's been bullshit. How much longer are we going to play this game? Right? I get it. Democrats aren't going to make the fight because it's pretty much an unwinnable fight, right? At this point in American history. But it's bullshit. Like, look, if you're a Republican listening right now, look, I get it, man. You like guns. Like, it's your only argument. I just like guns. Like, the Second Amendment, you guys read it in bullshit ways because it's just convenient to your narrative. But you're not a regulated militia. You're just some fucking Yahoo that bought a gun at Walmart. Like, you're not. If you're a regulated militia and it's a state-recognized regulated militia, fine. That's not what you are. You're just some Yahoo at home. You don't need a gun. You got to protect your family? Okay, dude. Get a baseball bat. Get a baseball bat. Like, honestly, like if you even said, if people said, well, I need a gun to, there should be some kind of gun to protect my family. One, like, this is not a movie. Like, relax. Okay. But let's say it is. Fine. Look, I'm actually in the Joe Biden wing of gun control perspective, which is get a shotgun. Look, like, chambering a fucking round in a shotgun, a criminal hears that, they're like, you know what? You got it. I don't really need to be here. Like, it's enough.
Yeah.
For most people, it's like, I don't need to go upstairs. That's cool. That's enough, right?
I mean, again, you know my solution to this. You know my solution to this problem. Require that every gun owner carries insurance, liability insurance.
Also fine with that.
Done and dusted. Fixes the problem probably overnight. You think that gun's important? Cool. Hope you enjoy paying premium every 6 months so that you have an insurance company that can cover you in case you do something stupid. Oh, you want to own 20 guns? Cool. Times that premium by 20.
Yeah. Oh, well, maybe I only need one. Yeah. All right then. Shut the fuck up. Right? Like, it's the arguments for gun ownership at this unlimited.
Start leaning on that well-regulated part of the fucking
hold on a second.
Regulate the shit out of it. Yeah,
fine. Look, again, like, to me, these arguments of we should just have, not only should we have guns, we should have unlimited guns is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and clearly that's not what they meant. It's clearly not what they meant, but people love to read the Second Amendment in this bullshit way that makes no sense.
Not what they meant, but like the stuff that we, as we've said before, this is nothing new and nothing you've heard. But the guns we have today were inconceivable by the people that wrote the Constitution. Because back in the day, you take a gun,
30 minutes,
shoot your musket, and then you're like, boom, one shot, cool. Let me fucking pack some gunpowder in this fucking thing. Right. So I can fire it again. Let's.
Yeah, there is no mass shooting, dude. You get one shot, and then it's like, and it wasn't even like that accurate. Like, you get one. Look,
imagine a mass shooter. Imagine a mass shooter with a musket. Like, he shoots one person. Like, all right, hold on a second, and then you just
everybody
fucking musket down.
Everybody, you stay right there. you Bob, I'm coming for you. Like that's not gonna work out. It's not gonna work out. They'd beat the shit out of you before you got your gunpowder out of your satchel. Like,
it'd be one guy from a gunshot wound, and then like whoever he can get swinging the musket around like a club. Like that's
right. Yeah, it's just a melee weapon at that point. That's all you got. So like, I'm just not. I'm not impressed by those arguments, and they're like, they aren't good ones. Again, like,
I don't think they're made genuinely at this point anymore. Like I really don't. Like I feel like half
their
the people
only
that
argument is "fuck you, I like guns." That's it.
Yeah, I feel like half the people that advocate for the Second Amendment know that they are on like textually shaky ground, no matter what the Supreme Court says. Like I think that they don't.
I mean, look, do I think that there will come a time where this will actually get challenged in a real way? Yeah, I think it will. I think if the country starts moving, like it's going to take decades, but I think the country could get to a point where there is enough votes where people are just like, you know what? We're fucking done with this. And maybe it's not like you confiscate all guns, right? Because that is not going to work. But it could easily be a situation of like, you have to have insurance. Like, you know, like that's enough to start to cut shit down. And, you know, I heard probably one of the better arguments the other day about how, you know, like the classic argument, well, if we ban guns, then only criminals have guns, right? And like this one person was like, listen, this is a comedian, Jim Jeffries, whose clip always goes viral every time there's a mass shooting, right? Because he makes really good points, like he does. And he was like, then he's like, listen, when they banned guns in Australia, you know what happened? Guns went on the black market, and then they became like $30,000. If you can afford a $30,000 gun, you're not going to do a mass shooting. Like, you're just like, why am I robbing people? I have $30,000. And like, that's a good point, right? Like, the second they go to the black market, the price goes high. It doesn't go low. Like, have people heard of the black market? Black market shit is expensive because it's illegal. Like, that's the whole point. It's always more expensive. So, we have too many guns in this country now. So even if we turn the faucet off, like there's still a lot of guns out there. But making people register their guns, like legitimately register your guns with the government, which I don't understand how anybody makes an argument against that, but why should the government know I have guns? Why should the government know that you drive a car? What the fuck? What are we arguing here? Like, this is stupid. It can kill people.
And aside from that, like, require licensing, constant like retraining or relicensing, having to renew,
absolutely,
and all that jazz, all that shit. Like, it's
for every gun you have, like you got to show proficiency in every gun you own. Everyone, I got 30 guns. Cool. Bring them all in, Jimbo. We're going to the fucking range. You got to show.
Yeah,
then you got to go.
Like to argue that, you know, oh no, clamping down on guns wouldn't solve violent crime. Like, it just flies in the face of
reality
statistics. Yeah, like we have the data to back it up. Like, it's not like we're pulling these figures out of our ass.
Right. Well, and it's like you have the data from the entire world. Like, in order for you to make the argument that less guns wouldn't affect like these mass shootings or the amount of gun violence in the United States, you would have to make the argument then that it's either guns or there's just per capita more insane people in America.
Yeah.
Pick one. Are we the number one country in the world full of complete lunatics? Or,
I mean,
perhaps
one could argue.
I mean, right. But
I'm not saying it's not that.
Yeah. And also, or there is too much access to this deadly weaponry, which is the obvious truth, right?
Yeah.
But then, Republicans like to lean on, oh, well, it's not a gun problem, it's a mental health problem. Cool. You want to give money for mental health? Well, no. What kind of queer shit is that? We're not paying for that. Like, they don't actually believe in that either. So
it's just another side of the abortion argument for them. Like, oh, these kids must be born. No, so you want to pass programs to take care of them for people that aren't financially equipped to do that. Oh no. We just care that they're born. Like, what happens after that is fucking God's plan. Like, that's all.
We bought you a bowl of bootstraps. You may use these as you will. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, they are full of half solutions or half reasons for to fix things. So
it's all bad faith.
Classic do nothing party.
Yeah, pretty much. It's all bad faith. So look, man, I'm not going to pretend like I am not annoyed and really pissed off at this, but I don't know what else to do. You know, this idea of replacement theory is clearly fucking mainlined into the Republican Party. I mean, for God's sake, you had Donald Trump go down an escalator, and the first thing he said was just attacking, Mexicans immediately to kick off his entire presidential campaign. His entire thing was about putting up a border wall because, God forbid, this brown horde was coming into the U.S. to steal away all the shit from white people. Meanwhile, literally, white Russians were like, Donald Trump's president? Cool, let's fly over and have our babies in America so that we can stay. But no one ever talks about that shit.
Yeah. But to fix it, because this is a poison that's affecting an extreme side of the Republican Party, you need reasonable Republicans to vociferously speak out and against it and to shun their fellow, party members who parrot this shit. Is that going to happen? Well, we can look at the recent example of the rise of Donald Trump as a Republican leader. All it would have taken was for the party en masse to shut that shit down, and they didn't do it. And it's not going to happen here because, again, Republicans view being tough on immigration as a core tenet of their party and a core responsibility that they have to their voters. And again, like I mentioned earlier, the white replacement theory is just a, furthering of a natural anti-immigration stance.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, you'd have to go back a little after George. Basically, you'd have to go to just after George W. Bush's time as president, where that shit just like went hardcore mainstream, right? Because, like you said, he won the Latin vote. Right? Like he was like, hey, from a border state, no big deal. And they were like, all right, I like that guy. He seems cool. Like he's super religious. We're super religious. But then the Republican Party was like, there's a black guy who's going to be president. Nah, let's turn the fucking faucet on all the racism all the way up.
I mean, again, go back 40 years. There's that famous debate clip that makes the rounds constantly between Reagan and George H.W. Bush, literally arguing with each other on which one of the two of them is more pro-immigration.
Right.
Like that used to be the Republican Party line. It's like, no, we like immigration. We want more people to come to the country. Like Reagan, talked about the Mexican day laborers that would come out for the summer, like to work in, in areas of like produce and stuff like that. And then to make a shitload of money that they could then go home with and provide a better life for their family. And Reagan was like all about that shit. Like he was like, yeah, this is good. We want this to happen.
Yep. Look, I mean, it's not as if in 1986 the Immigration Reform and Control Act was signed by Ronald Reagan. That granted amnesty for 3 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. 3 million. Like nothing is funnier than Republicans forgetting who Ronald Reagan actually was. We need a guy.
For Ronald Reagan today.
He could not win.
He's not extreme enough.
No. Not even not extreme enough. He's a fucking card-carrying goddamn liberal compared to the people these psychopaths.
He is from Hollywood, Jay. So
I mean, fucking
classic Hollywood elite, Ronald Reagan.
Bedtime for Bonzo or whatever the fuck bullshit. Like it's hilarious. Like here is a party who's like, don't take our guns. Fuck off. Ronald Reagan stop people from open carry in California. Why?
Yeah.
Because black people were doing it.
Yeah.
We got to get these immigrants the fuck out of here. How dare you? You want amnesty. Ronald Reagan was for amnesty? No, it was different. Was it? I can't believe Barack Obama wore a tan suit. Picture of Ronald Reagan wearing a tan suit. Don't worry about it. They just pretend like that shit doesn't exist.
Well, and again, like this also just goes back to the thing that is at the core of the Republican Party and just so firmly ingrained in literally everything that they do is coming from this is they are just a white grievance party. Like if there's if there's a fake grievance that white people can invent against themselves, the Republican Party will fucking run with it and spike that shit in the end zone, because that's all they have at this point. Because it's so fucking frustrating, because this party should be dead and gone. And over the next 20 years, they probably will diminish to a significant point so that they don't have any real like voting power, at least in like nationwide politics and stuff like that. Unfortunately, because of how fucking states work, I'm sure they're still going to be plenty powerful just from that regard. But like, this party should be fucking off the map at this point. They really should. And it's pathetic that they not only still exist, but have as much power as they do.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with the fact that that's white people's fault.
Yeah.
Right? There wouldn't be a powerful white grievance party if white people didn't feel grieved or need to feel grief, right? They need it. It's pathetic, right? Like, it's fucking pathetic. Oh my God, we're only 65% of the population. How will we survive? Like, you'll be fine. Are you upset that there are more minorities in this country? They're changing the fabric of America? What fabric of America, dude? What fabric? All the shit that everybody comes to this country for, everything that people know about America, like the cool, hip parts of America, that's not about white people. It's not. It's not. What? You think white people can't wait to come in? Like, it's not by white people. And it's certainly not by conservative white people, right? Yeah. Conservative white people, and that's who we're really talking about here. Not you good-natured whites. But like Brad, like you're cool. But like conservative white people think everybody comes to this country. They want to come to America because they want our America. No, they don't. They don't. They want to come to America that's like hip and cool and like business opportunities and shit like that for minorities. Who do you think is the ones who embrace them when they get here? Who are the ones, what party or what ideological side is like, hey, why don't you help newly arrived immigrants with, like help them get loans so they can start businesses to help their families pull out of poverty when they get here? Which ideological side is that? You think it's the Republican side? You think it's the conservatives? No. This idea, this like 1940s, 1950s idea of like the hardworking white man, conservative white man, he's just laying a path for you lucky Chinese people and all these other people of color. We're helping you get along and start your little laundromats and shit. That's not reality. It never has been, right? Like, people come to this country for opportunity. They come for like, just like the freedoms of America. People leave their countries because they are being prosecuted or they're being treated like garbage because they're gay, because they, the people they want to love, they can't love. They live in a country where there's just like not a lot of women. That's a thing, right? Mm-hmm. They come here because the education systems are amazing. They come here because the science is amazing. They come here for those reasons. Those things are all funded and advocated by liberals and people of color in this country. Every last one of those things. And every last one of those things are fought tooth and nail against by Republicans.
The thing that's
science?
What they seem to not understand is that the thing that makes America truly unique in terms of like what this country is all about is we are truly the only, like you can make the argument, us and maybe Canada are the only countries in the world that are like the island of misfit toys, essentially. Like we're the only countries who don't have, like, all of our, like most of our indigenous people have been fucking siloed off into, unfortunately, like to be not like non-factors in society to a great extent, which is fucking tragic. But because of that, like we are truly just like the island of collected ethnicities and races and cultures and beliefs and stuff like that. Whereas all of these other nations in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, in South America have these very deep-seated roots that have built and grown throughout the years. If you are like an American-born person and you go live in Germany, you will never be a German.
Right.
Like you will just be an American living in Germany, but you will never be German.
Right.
But anyone from any country can come here and be American.
Right.
That's the difference. Like that's the biggest difference.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I would take them at their, like, I would almost respect what they're doing if their policies and their platforms, the Republicans this is, were actually geared towards helping white people. But the problem is that most of the stuff they believe isn't pro-white, it's just anti-minority. Like that's right. The only thing.
You okay, if you actually gave a fuck, like here, let's play like a weird devil's advocate for a little bit before we move on. Like, if you actually gave a fuck about white people, right? Or like conservatives. Let's say you just cared about conservatives, right? But like, spoiler alert, they don't really give a fuck about black conservatives either. Like, they don't. But if you actually cared about white people, why wouldn't you want white people? Like, why wouldn't you want mental health taken care of? White men are killing themselves, quite literally killing themselves because they are so depressed and in this country. It's not because black people, it's not because Latin people, it's because there are some deep-seated fucking issues, right? Inside your own communities. White male suicide is skyrocketing, right? Why wouldn't you want
to also because they have a lot of guns.
That's also right.
Also a fucking problem.
From time to time, people get sad, right? Like, why wouldn't you want to deal with that? You think healthcare in minority communities, like speaking as a black person, you think our healthcare is bad? Like, it is. Because like black people, we don't go to doctors and shit. Like, because we don't have insurance. What you think going on in white communities? Like, you guys thinking about the suburbs. There's there's more poor white people in this country than there are poor anybody else. Like,
in your districts. In your neck of the woods.
Right. Yeah, you look, Mississippi has the largest black population at 33%. Yeah. What is the other percent that's white of that? Do you think it's only 20%? No. It is the poorest state in the union. If you really want to help white people, why don't you help them? You don't. You don't actually help them. Like you said, Brad, it's not a pro-white stance. It's just an anti-everyone else stance. And you don't care if it destroys anybody else, even your own side. It's like you're sending men into war, and then as they're fighting, as these white people are fighting these minorities on the front line, you're just bombing in the middle of the war.
It's like, whoever we take out, that's all good. Like, you're killing a lot of our own men. Yeah, but we're winning. Like,
yeah,
that's
but
all
we're winning.
Really
like, but we have more of them. Just send more. Like, just out of sheer force. But like, you're just killing them. So like, I had basically made a similar statement on Black and Black Cinema where I said, listen, this shit, this like replacement theory and stuff like that, and this white supremacist ideology, yes, it will destroy. Unchecked, it will kill and destroy a lot of minorities. That is its point, right? But at the same time, like I will reach out to white people from a purely selfish perspective for them. It will also destroy you,
right?
So you have to give a shit about this, because it's not just well, that's those people's problem. They can deal with it. No, this shit will come home. Like, it already has.
And that's the problem. And that's the problem, is there's so many. The lack of political education understanding in this country is what truly benefits the Republicans, because there are so many uneducated whites, especially in disadvantaged areas, that are just the authors of their own destruction, because they keep voting for these shitty Republicans on what really amount to social issues at the end of the day. Like, fucking anti-immigration is framed as an economic issue by Republicans, but it's not. From their stance. No. It's a social issue.
It's a social issue.
And they're willing to vote for these people who are doing nothing to help them, when if they voted for Democrats, they would at least get a little help. They might not like some of the social policies that come along with it, but they'd be in a much probably stronger economic position.
Look, you might not like the fact that you would have to sit on a train next to a black person and a trans person, and like some weird liberal chick with blue hair, but at least you'd have health care. Like, at least you'd have health care.
And a train.
And a train. That's awesome. Come on, man. Public transportation's awesome. Like,
that's right.
Like
high-speed rail.
Yeah, man, come on. Like, look at all those liberals. Oh, but this is really fast. This is really helping with my commute. Yeah, no shit. Who cares? I will never forget that, like, hilarious conservative meme. It's like, this is the future liberals want. And it was like a picture of people sitting on a New York subway, and it was like a trans woman sitting next to a woman in like a full burqa, and people are like, people being able to exercise their own religion and someone being able to exercise who they are from a gender perspective on public transportation. Yes, this actually is the future. I want, like, it's like the worst self-own of all time. Like, hey, dude, I don't give a shit. Like, do what you want, man. But like if you gave up the white grievance part of your ideology and just looked at what would actually help you, like, just look at it from a selfish perspective, what would actually help you? Student loan debt being eliminated, that would help you. Healthcare, that would help you, right? Like I think about how rich people vote, and then I hear poor people talk about not voting, and I'm like, they're like, oh, the rich are the worst. I'm like, they are voting for their self-interest. I get when rich people vote for Republicans. Like, hey, I got $25 billion. Hell yeah, I'm voting for Republicans. That makes sense, right? They shouldn't, because, like, I don't know, like, why would you want to live in a land of fucking chaos? But, like, I get that. I don't get why poor people are voting for Republicans. They're not going to help you. Yeah. Are Democrats perfect? Fuck no.
It's the one thing I wholeheartedly agree with Bernie Sanders about, is that, like I said, elections, like, if people are smart, should be decided along class lines. And the Republican Party is a party for the upper class and the upper middle class. And the Democratic Party is probably the party for everyone else.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. All right, let's move on. Tuesday election night results.
Super Tuesday. This felt like a lot of shit going on. There was primaries in North Carolina, Idaho, Pennsylvania, all sorts of places.
Let's start in Pennsylvania, shall we? Yeah, I'd like to start in Pennsylvania. Look, the Pennsylvania Democratic primary, aka Hell in the Cell, was won by won by everybody's favorite should-be WWE superstar, John Fetterman. Look, Fetterman, coming off of a stroke. He had a mild stroke the other day.
Still in the hospital currently.
Yeah, still fucking won. Big John Fetterman. Look, I'm happy about this. I really am. I like Fetterman a lot. Not just for his size. Jesus Christ, he's 6'8". That's insane. Every picture of him is awesome. He's just towering over these tiny reporters. They tell you something, they're like, all right, you got it. I'll vote for you. But I think Fetterman is a good dude. And we'll talk about a whole thing with Fetterman in Bang On or Bullshit actually this week too. But I'm happy to see that he won. He refuses to sort of label himself as a progressive guy. And it's not because he's ashamed of it. He's playing this very smart.
Because he's not stupid. He understands that he's running for statewide election in a very purple state.
Right. So he refuses to label himself necessarily as a progressive. He certainly isn't conservative. But he's basically running with very liberal policies as a centrist. Like, hey, I'm a little bit for everybody, right? Like, and it's funny because the second you take the label off of being progressive or liberal, people are open to it, right? Because I mean, like that's a long that fits with a long line of information that we already know, which is when you tell people that here are some liberal policies, like what do you think of them? People are like just by giving like rudimentary sort of understandings of it. But when you tell people the policies and you're just like, they would like to do X and Y and Z, people are like, oh yeah, no, I support that. Right? Like that's why the country is actually more center left than people realize, is just in how you frame the questions. People actually support those things, but people don't want to necessarily support like that one label versus another label. Like conservative, they have no problem with, I think, because they fully understand it. But like when it comes to like being labeled as like liberal or progressive, they're like, I don't know. So yeah, he actually won, which is really great. I'm glad he's on
pretty
the
definitively too, because the thing that the dichotomy that you point out there is that John Fetterman is running as a guy that's just kind of like, in political terms, you could almost argue winging it.
100%,
like in some ways,
yeah.
Whereas like Connor Lamb was like grown in a DCC laboratory somewhere to be like the ideal Pennsylvania candidate,
right.
And he had like 1 million endorsements, and had has had a lot of strength and money and stuff behind him, and he lost so convincingly to Fetterman that Lamb even lost in his own district that he was coming off of serving 2 consecutive congressional terms that he wanted.
Now, here's the thing. Fetterman is obviously the more progressive candidate. I would argue he is a progressive, even if he's trying to like be slick about it. I get it. I'm not even mad about it. Like, I'm sure some people are like, yeah, you should just say the word. Like, nah, play your game how you got to play it to win. I don't give a fuck about labels. You call yourself the fucking the king of England. I don't give a shit. Just win, right? Like, it doesn't matter to me. Some people get obsessed about that. Like, you got to say the name, right? And it's like, no, you don't. You call yourself whatever the fuck you want. But like the thing here is, Connor Lamb, like you said, like grown in a DCCC lab, right? And very much a more centrist party establishment candidate, versus John Fetterman. Here's the thing with this race that I think a lot of people should learn from. Connor Lamb losing does not mean it's the end of the Democratic Party. John Fetterman, if he had lost, would not be the end of like the progressive wing of the party. The primary is where you fight. Now that you're out of the primary, everybody you back Fetterman, right? If you were a Connor Lamb guy, God bless you, there's nothing wrong with that, man. Like, I get it.
And to wit, like Connor Lamb put out a statement immediately after conceding, saying, "Hey, we fought hard, but now what the most important thing is that we get John to the Senate because we need his vote."
That's right.
Like that was basically the statement that he put out after the election was over.
Right. And look, you campaign with that guy, you get out there and you're like, hell yeah. Like, that's the thing I will never understand. Like, Democrats are really, on a national level, are pretty bad about this. Like, especially like presidential politics, like clearly that's a problem. Because I think it's just, there's so much ego, right? You're just like, oh, fucking, you've been fighting that person.
It's a combination of ego, and I think that it's also the downside of having a wide party in terms of political ideology.
Spectrum, yeah. And
also not having a, God King that you all ultimately bow at the altar to, that that forces everyone to come together. So
right, exactly. Shut up. Like, you're like, all right. Biden said it's okay, right? Like, we don't do that. Like fuck that guy, right? Like nobody, we don't listen to him. So it is very cool to see Connor Lamb get on board with Fetterman. It's like, look, man, let's rock and roll. Like, that would be that's how I would run if I ran. That is exactly how I would run my campaign. I'd be like, look, I'd tell him, like, look, this is gonna be a hard fight. I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna let you fucking walk. I'm gonna try to kick your ass. And if I lose, guess what, motherfucker? I'll be right there holding your hand. Like, let's fucking do this shit together. Like, no harm, no foul. Like, you fight hard, but you fight fair. You fight hard. You don't win. You get on board, and the two of you work together to kick the shit out of whatever psychopath they could fucking put up in the Republican Party, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
so look, good on John Fetterman. I think that's awesome. And look, I'm going to make a similar observation, surprisingly, about our boy Madison Cawthorn. I'm going to call him by his full name, his real name, after he lost. But he actually did something.
What are we going to do? Yeah, what are we going to do without Tad to pick on anymore?
Oh, he ain't going nowhere. Nah. Surely OAN or Fox News has, probably not Fox, right? Like the Republican Party's like,
not Fox.
They're like,
he's persona non grata now.
Yeah, they're like, don't you fucking dare hire that asshole. OAN will hire him. OAN will hire him. He'll get some money. He'd be on there. Don't worry. So over on the GOP side of the Pennsylvania primary, Dr. Oz and David McCormick are fighting it out. And it's ironic because they're waiting for all the mail-in ballots to be counted before they declare a winner.
Wait.
How ironic.
That's not how this is supposed to go. Like I thought the winner of the primary is supposed to be whoever has the most votes when Donald Trump decides that the election's over. I thought that's how they're supposed to decide it.
Ironically, Donald Trump obviously backing Dr. Oz.
Oh, this isn't ironic at all. This is completely expected.
Yeah, it is completely expected. He came out, Donald Trump came out today and was like, Dr. Oz needs to declare that he won. Like, that's it. Like, fuck the numbers. Just declare you won. And look, to Dr. Oz's credit, he's like, nah, yo, like that's not right. now eat these goji berries to make sure it cures your cancer.
Imagine just giving away the game so thoroughly. Like you're saying, Trump went on fucking Truth Social or whatever the fuck, his platform is called, and was literally like, if I were Dr. Oz, I would just claim victory now and just forget what the rest.
Fuck the numbers. Right? Just because for him, it's all about narrative, right? Like, who grabs the narrative? Like, if you say that and then the other guy wins, and you're like, he stole it, right? Like that's your immediate move, which is that's what Trump is basically implying. Like you call it. If they say you lost, then fuck it, no holds barred, scream it until you're fucking blue in the face. If you won, then you won. Right? Yeah. You build the narrative. I mean, look, from a shitheel perspective, it's a sound argument, but it's not cool. Like, it's not cool to do that.
I shudder to think of how much we're going to see this tactic employed in November.
100%.
Like, it's going to be in fucking insane. Any close race between a Republican and Democrat that goes to the Democrat in the general election, you are not prepared for the amount of bullshit.
They're stealing it, dude. I won my 40 points. Republicans did that in the last election.
They did.
Like, I remember there was a guy. Actually,
it didn't go anywhere. It didn't. No, it didn't. Yeah, there was definitely. I think it was like a North Carolina.
There was a North Carolina one. I think there was also one out in like. I think in California or something like that, or Vegas.
I think the one I'm thinking of was in California. It was like a D plus 35 district or something like that, and the dude got his shit kicked in.
I know that guy personally. Actually,
oh really?
I know that guy personally, and like he's an interesting character. He's actually a cinematographer, which is how I know him. And you should stick to that and not politics, you fucking dickbag. Because he actually is a good cinematographer. And like that guy got blown out of the water by like 30 points, and he was like, the election was stolen.
Yeah, I'm not conceding. Like, really?
Okay, dude, don't.
Like if you won, that's fine. Like, you got the money to pay for a recount so you could lose by 30 points again.
Like, that should definitely did not trigger a recount. Like, if you're within 35 points, it'll trigger a recount. Okay, guys, like, go sit down. So yeah, like the Pennsylvania GOP primary is still not settled, just because of this. But the irony that these two guys are waiting for mail-in ballots when that was the whole thing with Trump is just hysterical to me.
Mail-in ballots that are projected to go to McCormick, by the way. Like apparently as ballots are coming in, like the lead's getting shortened that Dr. Oz has currently.
Look, that's fine. Like I don't want Dr. Oz running against Fetterman. Though I think Fetterman could probably beat him, but I don't trust Pennsylvanians when it comes to like TV celebrity shit. I don't trust it. I don't.
What is that? What is that based in?
No, I don't trust Republicans. Let me rephrase that. I don't trust Republicans.
Okay.
Not specifically people in Pennsylvania. Like those.
I'm about to say, like
those
what
fucking
people in
idiots.
Pennsylvania ever do to you? Besides vote for Trump in 2016, but that's beside the point.
Just saying. There's a history here.
That's beside the point.
But no, what I'm saying is I don't trust Republicans. Sorry. I don't trust Republicans not to just support Dr. Oz in like big numbers because he's on TV. I thought
you were going to pull out some like, do you know that Pennsylvania voted for Reagan in 84? Can you believe that? Like, yeah, I know. Like literally everyone else
everyone did. Everyone did.
Except for I don't remember what state it was that didn't, but there was one state that did not.
I think it was Mondale's like home.
Oh, you're right. It was Minnesota, I think.
Yeah, I think it was
voted for him.
Dude, he got trounced.
He got the shit kicked out of him.
Dude, don't even tell anybody you ran. Jesus Christ. Our look what they did to our beautiful boy. Madison Cawthorn. Quite literally taken out, much like that meme, quite literally taken out to the cliff and just dumped out. Like, oh, look, he got his, he lost. He lost his primary battle. He lost it to, was it Chuck Edwards?
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. Or as Andy called him, Blanky McCracker, the most boring looking white guy ever.
He really is.
He really is. He's definitely someone's stepdad, 100%. But he's like a good stepdad, right? He's
if there was like a business simulator video game, like he would be one of the default choices for like the creative character.
Hello, everyone. I'm the CEO of Corp.Corp. Like, oh, okay. So look, this is not. I mean, I guess it comes as a slight surprise. I thought maybe he might be able to survive it. I didn't think he'd be able to survive a general election, but I thought he might be able to survive the primary. But this poor guy, man, they fucking tossed him to the wolves. And by poor guy, I mean that 100% facetiously. I'd like to just add.
I will say, and again, this is just cherry picking quotes from, Republican voters that the posted in the article that we're looking at here.
Right.
But at least like the stuff that the voters claim that they voted him out for is like legitimate stuff. Like one
really
voter is like, right. Yeah, like one voter is like, yeah, he doesn't show up for any votes in Congress and he just fucking rolls around the country and just fucking, likes to give the speeches and be on podcasts, this and that shit. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
He don't really do no work.
He literally did the basics.
Right. So like that is a completely valid argument. I mean, obviously, let's get real. This is not because of the insider trading shit. This has everything to do with the fact that he decided that he wanted to dime out his buddies and talk about orgies and cocaine and on a podcast. And they were like, that's cool. We're going to make your life a living hell and destroy you over it. So
yes,
I find that to be funny. I really do.
I do. I also find it to be funny that Trump thought it would be a good idea to like endorse him like literally the day before the voting started. I'm just like, wow, like really poor timing on your part. Really, really not reading the room here, are you? Are you, no. Donald, you dumb idiot?
Yeah, I just it's fucking stupid. I look him losing is ultimately a good thing. We are not going to have our boy Madison to kick around anymore. But like I said, look, I think he'll show up on OAN. He'll show up as a commentator on something. He will be a part of politics. He's not going to give that up. But look, pushing that Mac and me fucking Nazi off the cliff is fine by me because fuck him ultimately, right? Yes. Like, sorry, I don't feel sorry. I really don't feel sorry that he's done. I do feel bad that, not bad for him, But I do feel bad that we couldn't get him out. We couldn't beat him on the substance, that the Republican had to toss him just because he dimed them out on their obviously lurid activities after hours.
Give it a year and a half, and we'll see. We'll get some deets in the inevitable book that's coming from him, I'm sure, at some point.
You think so?
Oh, are you kidding? Like, I'm sure their publishers.
Well, that's how you got to make money.
Yeah, I was gonna say their publishers probably lining up to give him, however many millions of dollars that he needs to spill the tea, as the kids say.
I mean, it's not like he hasn't done it for free on a podcast. So, how many months do you think we should wait before we try to book him on this show? Should we go now?
Lord.
Should we start messaging his people and be like, look, we're liberal, but like, give us the juice, man. Come on, give us the juice. Come on, Maddie. Give us the juice. You fucking Nazi. Give us the juice.
I don't want to talk to that fucking kid. Are you kidding me?
It was so funny. I showed a picture of him to my wife, and she was like, oh, he's like a really good looking guy. And I was like, she was like, yeah, let me guess, he's like a veteran too, and all this other stuff. I said, no, he's not, but like, he was definitely, they were lining this guy up to be the future of the party. And then he was like, they do coke and they have orgies, and they were like, get the fuck out of here. Like, shut up. So I love that they tossed it for it.
So apparently, it wasn't a great night for Trump. A lot of the candidates that he endorsed ended up going down, which is very interesting. So
yeah, I had sent you and Andy, that basically that report out like on election night. It was something like, it had the percentages of how how Trump's guys did. It's not good. Like they really came in quite poorly, which is fine. Look, I mean, it was something like, basically on average they were only getting like 25-30%, which just shows like that white grievance party is really getting marginalized, right? Like it's just like, this is all they have. There's not much left. It's just these guys. So
well, and it good. Kind of it's interesting because so like in the past week or so, we started to see like the Biden administration start to workshop some of what they're going to be attacking Republicans with in the midterms. And apparently they focus tested this ultra MAGA slogan that Biden started using recently.
Terrible slogan. Terrible.
Yeah, but apparently it's effective. Like, apparently people are responding to calling people like MAGA Republicans and not like Trump Republicans. Like, for some reason, the MAGA thing is better
like,
than it's.
I could see MAGA Republicans. That makes sense. Ultra MAGA, it makes them sound like that works like in the opposite way. Because I saw Republicans are like, yes, ultra MAGA. Well, like they like that.
He took it too far by. He's like, oh, he's like the ultra MAGA king Trump. I'm like, don't do that. Like, they've already started to run with that.
Yeah,
like, are you
dude.
kidding
like,
me?
No, I think your point about calling them regressives is perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, I think regressives is the exact right name, because it literally puts a direct contrast of people who are progressing the country versus not even trying to keep it stagnant. You're trying to tear it back and go back.
It's to roll it back.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Like I said, but I do think that the Democrats' most effective form of attack is to really like go after the personal liberty aspect that Republicans have tried to own the corner on. But like, they can sit there like they want to tell your kids what books they can read, and they want to tell women like what they have to do with their bodies and this or the other thing. I think ultimately that's going to be like, it sucks that we can't run campaigns on issues anymore. And I know that we're gonna. We should probably get to it now, because I mean we're here, but. Unfortunately, like we have to fucking roll up our sleeves and get a little dirty. It seems like right now.
Yeah. Look, let's all right. We'll move the docket around a little bit. Thanks for that. Just ruining the flow.
Ruining this finely crafted docket that you've constructed.
That's right, Brad. In this Google Doc. So like that's the topic. Like, for bang on and bullshit this week, right?
You don't have the cow soundbite queued up.
Excuse me, sir. Don't make me do it. Okay. It's ridiculous. So, the idea here is the title of the article is Why Dems Ought to Take a Cue from the GOP and Get Angry, right? And this is a Politico opinion piece, and I think it makes a sound argument. But I think that it does miss a couple things. It makes a sound argument that basically over the past number of decades, Republicans have switched from being a party of policy, right? I know, if you were a young person, you're like, when were they ever a party of policy? They don't do policy. That's kind of not their thing, Jay. And you'd be right. But back in the day, like in the 80s, in the early 90s, they actually did have policies. We just vehemently disagreed with them. And so they stopped doing that. Probably in the early aughts, they kind of just abandoned those things. And they decided to change it to everything is politics. Everything is the most important thing. And they became the full-on white grievance party, right? And they play at this like whack-a-mole idea of, all right, this year it's gay rights. Let's just scream about it. They're coming for your kids. And then the next thing it's something else. And it's like they're trying to destroy healthcare. Like they make everything an emotionally charged topic to get as much red meat out to their audience as possible to jack them up to go vote. Democrats, on the other hand, have long done and still do the tried and true method, as they see it, of, hey, these are the policies, everything, whatever's going on, we're going to talk about healthcare, we're going to talk about taxes, we're going to talk about immigration, and like pocketbook issues, right? Like that's what we're going to talk about. And that kind of stuff will cohesively bring together our coalition, and that's how we win. And the article basically makes the argument that might be a waste of time. In that you need to give people the visceral response, because that is what they actually respond to. Because John Fetterman, which is where this came from, even said that voters make up their minds based on, quote, visceral, unquote, reactions to politicians, right? So that's how he has played his entire campaign, is like, if they like you, they will come out for you. But if you're trying to give them some boilerplate bullshit, you got to get people hyped up. If you give them some boilerplate bullshit, then they're like, whatever, nerd, right? Like, I see this a lot in this. Is gonna seem far fetched in the beginning, but I'll make it make sense. Like I see a lot of this in like the fitness industry, right? Like I watch a lot of videos and shit like that, and a lot of those people are conservative because they equate conservatism with like toughness. I'm like, Donald Trump is tough. Like this is weird. That guy's never done a push-up a day in his life. Okay. Meanwhile, like Joe Biden's like fighting corn pop or whatever the fuck in the 70s.
Yeah. Riding bikes as Fox News in the background. He's just fucking flashing peace signs at him as he's rolling by.
Fitness, motherfucker. Like, so like he's still doing it. He's 1,000 years old. Like, good for him, right? Meanwhile, fucking Trump doesn't even like walk a golf course. Okay, like Jesus Christ. But I mean,
to be fair, I don't either. So
I mean, I don't either. Get the fuck out. Carts are awesome.
Yes, they are.
Like, dude, they're fast. What are we doing? So like, but they see it as toughness because of rhetoric, right? Like freedom and like all of this shit. And it's not that they actually have policies that back those ideas up, but it is so ingrained in people's heads. And look, no offense, but a lot of people in the fitness industry are kind of meatheads, right? Like they are. Not all of them. Some of them are pretty smart, but a lot of them are fucking dumb jocks, right? But they know what they're talking about in their aspects. But like a lot of them fall for that because of like the sloganeering type of shit, right? And it's not because of the actual policies that these people are, I ain't weak, so I don't have to take the COVID vaccine because, I trust my immune system. You trust your immune system? Like, dude, like that doesn't even make any, all right, like that doesn't make any sense. Like the vaccine is to give your immune system
like
the blueprint to fight.
I trust mine too. That's why I'm trying to give it the data that it needs.
Right. Like that's what, but it's sloganeering, right? And basically their argument is maybe you need to do a little bit more sloganeering and like getting to that visceral emotional response than being a fucking nerd. Right? It's basically the argument. So what say you, Brad? Is that bang on or is that bullshit?
No, I think it's actually a pretty good argument to make. I mean, you need look no further than Joe Biden, who is literally like Joe the storyteller. Like he's able to relate policy issues into very, everyday American sensibilities. Barack Obama was really good about doing it. One of the reasons that you and I, really gravitated to Elizabeth Warren is because she's really good at doing that as well. And Republicans have people that are good at doing that too, albeit in much more nefarious ways. But like you said, like when they're yelling about grievance, they don't have to yell about policy, and they're able to successful because they trigger something in the hearts and minds of their voters.
It's the reason
to go out for them.
It's the reason Hillary lost. It's part of the reason Hillary lost.
That's why Bernie loses. Bernie's not a storyteller, man.
No, that's true. That's true. He's not. He's a very policy guy, but he gets people riled up, right? But I'll talk.
But he's not. But it's not the same thing.
It's not the same sort of thing, and I'll talk about why I think Bernie is slightly different, right? It's the reason that Hillary lost. It's the reason Romney lost. It's also the reason McCain lost. If you can't get people to fucking like, right? Like they got to feel something. They got to feel something. Look, as much as I think you're 100% correct about Joe Biden being a storyteller, and like younger Joe Biden, like Joe Biden when he was like Obama's VP, like, dude, he could crush you with a fucking story. Like he just like, there's a reason why there's that famous clip of Lindsey Graham saying, like, if you don't like Joe Biden, like, the fuck is wrong with you? Like, look, you might not like this dude's policies, but like, as a person, like, he has a way of like just getting to you, man. He's got that folksy grandpa shit, and it works, right? And that's why he's always been so successful in politics. But I don't think that's where he won people over in 2020. I don't think so. I think it was one statement that really won him over.
You shut up, man.
Yeah. Because at the heart of that statement was everyone watching going, yeah, dude, we've been like, that's what we've wanted to say to this asshole for 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's moments like that. Look, Reagan saying, here he goes again. That works, man. It works. Yes, we can. Like, remember the first fucking couple times you heard that shit, right? And it was like, oh shit, we might be able to do this, right? Like that statement, yes, we can, is so fucking powerful. It's not about, like, it's not in that what I think generic, like Bernie tried to tap into that too. It's that generic, like, it's not about me, it's about you. But that's, and it's a copy, right? Like a lot of people don't realize that. That's basically a copy of Yes We Can, right? It's not about me, it's about you. Like, you will be able to do this. But Bernie missed what Yes We Can was about. Yes We Can wasn't about just, yes, we can win. Yes We Can was about, this is a moment in history. Look who I am.
Yeah.
Yes, we can make this happen. You can too be a part of this historical moment, right? It mattered a lot, right? If Bernie wasn't saying it's not me, it's you, doesn't work, I'll tell you who it would work for. AOC it would work for. Because people would be like, she's got that way about her that she gets people, she pulls them in. There is a difference in inspiring people and inspiring people to your message and inspiring people to be like your acolytes. Like there's a difference, right? Because you can see it's not that people who supported Bernie like don't like love Bernie and like believe in his message. That's not what it is. It's that they weren't infectious, right? When Obama came around and that like, yes, we can rhetoric and all that other stuff came up, it felt infectious. Like he just started pulling people who were just like on the sideline. They're like, fuck, maybe we can do this, right? Like they were in it. Like they got pulled into it. Bernie didn't have that because for all of Bernie's messaging, it came down to millionaires and billionaires are pieces of shit, which is fair, right? But attacking just rich people in general isn't evocative enough for a lot of people. Because guess what? A lot of people wish they were rich.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. Like at its fundamental, it doesn't work because it's like, I was thinking about this today. The only people who think it's like, it's honorable to be poor in this country are people with privilege. Mm-hmm. You know who doesn't think it's honorable to be poor? Poor people. Every single poor person wishes they had money. Every poor person you see struggling doesn't go, I love being poor. I love eating banana sandwiches. No, motherfucker, they'd be like, I'd love to have a jet ski. What the fuck? Yes. So they miss that point because a lot of those kids, and they're, not that everybody was like rich or middle class or whatever, but a lot of Bernie's supporters were people who came from privilege. It doesn't mean they're rich, but they came from privilege of some kind. So it's hard to convince people that have been told that the only way to make it in America is to get wealth to then hate the idea of being wealthy. It fundamentally just hits a roadblock because people are just like, oh, what the fuck, dude? What if I wanted to be rich? You gonna fuck me over too? And they that's the American psyche. They immediately turn against
not only that, but they equate wealth with success, and so they think, well, these guys must be doing something right. Like that's where a lot of people came in and voted for Trump. Is like they're like, oh, well, this guy has money.
Absolutely,
so clearly he's doing something correct,
right? And he must be smart.
And we should probably listen to him. Yeah,
and he must be smart. Which. No, he is not. He's an idiot. But so, like, I think this article is right. But in order for that to work, people who are policy-driven people need to understand what the game is, right?
Yeah.
You gotta be able to say, like, it's like it's the Fetterman thing all over again. I know what he really believes. I know what his policies are. And I also got to know that when he gets out there, he's only going to talk about, like, he's only working to get evocative responses. I know that.
Well,
but I gotta dig underneath and look at his policies and not get mad that that's what he's doing. You got to let him play that game. You have to let him play that game.
I think you can do a little bit of both, though. Like, I think you can build a narrative and you can build a story rooted in policy that you want to advance, and that's the key. Is you don't talk about the policy in wonkish terms. You make it accessible for people who don't sit here and listen to political podcasts for 2 hours with two
losers.
Losers. Like that's how you make that effective. Like a guy like John Fetterman, and I think where he's smart, and I think this is also where Donald Trump is smart, is that they know they don't have to appeal to people like you and me, because you and me are going to go out there and do the research and understand like what's at the core of this person from a policy platform. They understand they have to get people who are just out there living their lives, who only think about politics once every 2 years or 4 years. And they have to get that person to go out and vote. Yep. John Fetterman does it by, appealing to a wide swath of people in Pennsylvania, and Trump does it through virulent racism. Both are equally effective, I guess.
6 on one hand, half a dozen on the other. Right? What the fuck, man? But yeah, I like the article. I like the point, but I think like you have to let them. You got to be able to let them play that game.
I do think as a party we need to stop. We need to get offended more by shit that the right is doing, because I think that one of the things that hurt us is that we played things too by the book when Trump was doing his shit. And, and we just like, oh, like the norms will hold, the institutions will hold, like this construct that has been built will weather this storm. And I don't think we realize just how insidious that side of the party and how quickly it was going to manifest itself in Republicans as a whole. So we need to start getting mad about this stuff. Like I do think that the Roe decision leaking out is going to be looked back at as like a huge catalyst for awakening this like emotional response. It is not a coincidence that we're seeing Democrats get pissed off about this white replacement theory bullshit so soon after the Roe leak and how we're reacting to it. Because I don't think if the Roe leak had happened that we would be seeing as raw of a response to this. I honestly, I wonder if the Roe leak happened, if Democrats wouldn't be talking about guns again in the wake of
probably not, right? But it is interesting. It is interesting, and I'm really hoping that people get fired up.
Yeah,
you got every reason to be fired up. Look, before that mass shooting, there was a bunch of stuff on social media of like women sharing their abortion stories.
Yeah.
That is tapping into a fucking emotion. That is like when you have women telling personal stories about like, this is my abortion story. Like, not just like, these aren't just like celebrity women who are like, man, I just live my life. Like, these are just regular ass women on social media being like, let me tell you about this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You have husbands telling that story, right? You and I both discussed having to see our wives go through DNCs, right? Like, that is an emotional response. That is a very powerful response to a topic. Use it, right? Like, get up there and kick their fucking teeth in with this shit. Look, not only do you have history on your side, not only do you have the right perspective on your side historically, but you have people on your side. You are fighting against a party that pretends that like everything happens is like, like everything bad that happens is not anyone's particular fault. There are no reasons for it. It's just the devil or whatever fucking bullshit, right? And then you have the other party that's like, no, there are reasons that these bad things happen, and there are things that we can do to stop them. Like, you're upset, I'm up on this stage telling you my story. You're down in the crowd hearing that story. You also have a similar experience. Let's fight together, right? Like, there is strength in numbers. There is power in touching at the heart of a person in politics. There is. Like, for a long time, people forget. It's a long time in politics that's all politics was.
Mm-hmm.
How do I get to fucking touch the heart of that person standing in that crowd? And I think Democrats have long forgotten that, right? And look, we're the nerds, right? Like, I get it. Like, the fucking other guys are the jock assholes, and and they're the alpha betas, and we're fucking lambda. I get it, right? Like, it's not lost on me, right? But guess what? The nerds were the heroes in those movies. And they're also perverts, but the nerds were heroes. That first Nerds movie is like wildly unacceptable by today's standards. Jesus Christ.
Wildly unacceptable by today's standards, but perfectly acceptable by 1980s standards.
Oh, 80s, it was fucking PG-13. Like, what the fuck? Dude, they broke into a sorority and had a camera in it. I'm like, dude, like, this is not cool. This is not cool. Roll it again. But God, I watched that movie so many times when I was a kid. Like, why are my parents not coming in and stopping me? But like, we are the fucking nerds, right? Like, even the nerds in that movie were more diverse, right? Like, they were black, they were white, they were gay, they were Asian, like, they were more diverse. It's okay to be the nerds, but guess what? Sometimes, like, you got to have the rockin' fucking concert at the end. It's not all about like math shit, right? Like, you got to use your nerd shit to win. And the only way you're going to beat these guys is to get an emotional fucking response. And you do that by telling stories. You do that by getting really good at sloganeering. You fucking hit them, man. You hit them. And when you hit them, don't back off. The basket of deplorables was a good hit. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that hurt Hillary is that liberals backed off of it. Oh, she shouldn't have said that. Fuck no, she should have fucking absolutely said it. You should have backed her and been like, you know what? These motherfuckers do belong in a basket of deplorables. Because guess what? At the end of the day, she was right. Mm-hmm. She actually was right. But Republicans said, oh, you shouldn't say that. And liberals were like, you're right. She shouldn't have said that. I'm like, yo, back her, dude. If you just do what Republicans do, Don't apologize. Say that shit and stick with it. It is a basket of deplorables. And then start cranking out fucking t-shirts the next day. Work that shit to an angle that you can get people riled up. That's how it works. I have a t-shirt idea I shared with the two of you. I'm going to do it because I know it'll get people fucking hyped up. Good. It should. That's the whole fucking point. It should piss you off. It should go after people and get, like, you should feel a response when you see shit like that or hear stuff like that. And when you do, you get people to come out and go, yes, we can. And then they vote. All that, like, hey, fucking let's lower student debt. That'll work. No, motherfucker. Like, we're trying to put, don't say you're going to lower student debt. That's not the fucking argument. We're putting money back in your pocket. Mm-hmm. That's the argument. You want to go buy a new car? Buy a new car. Get an electric car thanks to Joe Biden and the Democrats. Boom, motherfucker. We'll see you at the polls. Like, that's how you do it, right? Like, look, honestly, that's what I would do. Like, be an asshole about it. Be a fucking asshole about it. Dude, have Joe Biden drive up in an electric fucking Mustang, an American-made car, and be like, look, we're reducing student debt. Boom, here's the number. You want to go buy your first car? You want to go buy your first house? Do that with that money. Help the American economy and help yourself. You're welcome. And then just drive off in a fucking Mustang. Dude, come on. That's how you win people over. People go, all right, that was pretty good. Like that's the shit that works.
That's a ridiculous scenario that you propose because Joe Biden clearly a Chevy guy. He's not a Ford.
That's true. You're right. But Chevy doesn't have an electric. They don't have
an electric Corvette. They have to get on that for him.
But I wouldn't be mad if he did it in a Corvette. I wouldn't be. But I'm just saying, like, fuck it. I don't know. Get a Hummer. They have a $100,000 fucking Hummer, right? It's electric. It's ridiculous.
No, but again, I think the stand like with student debt specifically, I think like you said, it's not, hey, let's reduce student debts. Hey, how would you like an extra $800 a month in your pocket? How what could you do with that?
Right.
Like that's
and then just show images of people like buying their first car, buying their first home. Hell yeah, dude. People would be like, I want that. Like that. Vote for us. Be like, you know what? Yeah, fuck those other guys. I want a new house. That's how people will feel energized. That's how you will, you will touch at the heart of what people want. People want to be able to buy their first house. People want to be able to buy their first car. People just want to get out of debt. Mm-hmm. Like, I have a picture of them just like fucking signing a document. It's like, final payment. Done. Right? Like, that's visceral shit that people connect to. Stop being a fucking nerd. Well, keep being a nerd, but be smart about it. Just be smart about it, man. Right? Like, it's just not hard. Now I have an idea for an image that I think works even better than my original one.
I don't know. I liked your idea for the original image, but I guess we didn't talk about Tucker Carlson enough for that to really warrant
no,
being
we didn't.
On there.
No, we didn't. All right. Let's get to we're gonna have to cut a lot of these stories, I feel like.
That's okay. That's okay.
GOP's bad faith argument on the baby formula shortage in the United States. This is a really fascinating story because it is an easy thing to knock down that Republicans are coming out about, right? Republicans are like
it's also like if you just take one step back and analyze the crux of the argument, the response it's
a bit
really?
Weird.
Like, really weird. Like you think that's acceptable? Okay.
So the argument here is like there is a baby formula shortage in the U.S., not in the world, in the U.S. Republicans are like it's because of Joe Biden's immigration policies and because of I guess inflation is what they're arguing. Which is not true.
No, the actual not even a little bit.
it actually isn't true at all. Around the country, more than 40% of formulas are out of stock. It's actually caused by a supply chain issue and the closure of a major manufacturing plant in February.
for safety violations and for like product violations.
Right. So that's obviously left parents like in a lull, right? And they're just like they're pretty scared. Look, I am thankfully you and I are both thankfully past the parenting stage of having to get formula. So lucky for us. Like, I'm so glad I'm not involved in this because it's a little scary. But what's interesting is Republicans are like, yeah, this is Joe Biden's fault, yada, yada, yada. And Joe Biden, if you can believe this, is giving baby formula to immigrants that come over with babies.
For free.
They're taking
by the pallet load.
Yeah. They're taking baby formula out of your baby's mouth and they're giving it to, get this, a Mexican baby. Maybe we should starve that baby for your baby, is basically the argument. They are quite literally in, I think it was Joe Biden who said, like, they're in the pro-starvation wing of the party.
Yeah.
Like, did you guys just argue about being pro-life last week?
But the Mexican babies that we are all for locking up in detention centers as they try to come across the border for because of political amnesty.
Right. Like, you made this.
Quite literally. Like, again, like the abortion argument kind of carries for everything. Like, it's all kind of the same. It's like, hey, let's lock these people up. We got to put them in jail. And we're like, all right, well, we're going to like feed and clothe and take care of them and treat them humanely, right? While we have them detained. Oh no, like, let them starve and die. Like we're not saying we got to take care of them. Like, we just want to put them behind bars. That's all.
Yeah. Well, what kind of liberal cuck idea are you talking about? Like, feed kids. So what's hilarious is not only is the amount of baby formula that's being used to give to these immigrants and their children so minuscule that it would not change anything about the shortage.
Like, it's probably like 1% of 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 all the formula that's in the United States.
In the entire United States, right? Like, these guys are like, they have all the formula that's missing has all been at the border. Like, no, that's not how it is, right? Like you said, it's like, 0.00001% of all, probably way more zeros than that. Yeah. So the funny thing is, they're like, so, we shouldn't be giving this to immigrants. But like, Trump did this. Like, they gave formula to immigrants too. And I know what you're thinking. Well, that's because Trump, he's the God emperor. Obviously he loves Jesus and all. And so, he's just doing what God would do. No, it's the fucking law, right? Like, they tried to not do this as well, but it's the fucking law. The government must provide food, including baby formula and water, to migrant children detained at the border as part of a settlement of a class action lawsuit that was initially brought against the Reagan administration and settled under the Clinton administration in 1997. The Flores settlement, as it's known, laid out the appropriate treatment of children detained by immigration officials, including holding them in, quote, safe and sanitary facilities and providing drinking water and food as appropriate. That's it. You have to feed these people. You can't hold them at the border and then let them starve. That's illegal.
Because it ties back to the fact that there is a constitutional amendment against cruel and unusual punishment. And I don't know about you, Jay, but I would pretty much consider starving a baby to death while in detention to be considered cruel and unusual punishment.
I would argue that you are correct. Thankfully that like human beings exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It says, this article says, despite the Trump administration's antipathy to the settlement, it nonetheless abided by the settlement's food and water requirements. But they also, like, to try to get around that, that's why they pushed the separation of families thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because that was one of their MOs to kind of get around this. But bad faith is such a loaded phrase these days for obvious reasons, because of certain podcasts and such. But like this is literally like a perfect example of a bad faith argument. Like,
yes,
no, dude, they're just helping people at the border because like that's the job. Like, you can't just not do it.
Yes,
and it's not stopping you getting
to believe Republicans like it would literally be like the stock boy at the local Safeway, bringing out a thing, or at the local Walmart bringing out a pallet of baby formula to stock the shelves. Like, oh wait, this is the pallet that's going to the Mexican jails to feed all the other kids. Sorry, your baby will just have to starve.
Oh, is your white baby hungry? Fuck that white baby. This is going to Mexican babies. Like, but this also plays into replacement theory nonsense, right?
Yes.
That these people are coming to take all of your stuff. Like, dude, they're not taking anything. Like, they're not taking anything. You are like, there are literally people right now in the United States, inside the U.S., buying up more formula so they can sell it at higher percentage. Those people are more of a problem than the immigrants who are just getting it to feed their children. But you wouldn't be mad at them as angry at them as you are angry at these fictional people you don't know.
And by the way, if you didn't adopt the Trump era policy of Title 42 and holding these people, and you instead adopted the catch and release policy that was under previous administrations,
correct,
you wouldn't have to be dealing with this.
Nope.
By the way.
Cool. Thanks for coming to the border. Go about your day.
Yeah.
No, but now we have to keep them and do this. And by the way, to Biden's credit, they've been trying to kill Title 42. They have been, but they haven't been successful because of Trump appointed judges.
Yes.
So
also something that you don't hear liberals talking about enough, like people that are banging on the administration for not killing Title 42. Not a whole lot they can do about it right now. So
right. And again, you got to stop acting like Republicans don't exist, guys. Like when you make your argument, you got to stop doing that. Like, because it just takes all context out of things, and it's real annoying. Next up, Biden administration to release $45 billion for nationwide internet. Look, this is a super great article. Shout out to Andy for finally being able to get internet in the future. I think that's pretty great. $45 billion to ensure every U.S. resident has access to high-speed internet by roughly 2028. I think the minimum download speed is like 25 megs down, which is pretty good.
Oh no, I think it's more than that.
Is it more than that now?
I think it's like 100 for what they're talking about with these like low budget plans that they want to roll out. Here's my question: $45 billion. Why didn't this happen 5 years ago? Like, what the fuck have we been doing?
Well, former President Donald Trump, as this article quotes, has dismissed the infrastructure spending as, quote, fake. What does that even mean? Even though the broadband spending was one of his own priorities, you'll be shocked to know that his agricultural department said in 2020 that it had invested $774 million on rural internet connectivity, a sum that was meaningful yet insufficient. Again, even in the face of the first story we did of a kid being radicalized on 4chan, which is a dangerous thing, even in the face of that, the Biden administration and Democrats support giving $45 billion on average, I think, and I'll find the exact quote in this article. On average, it's going to be close to $800 million per state for shoring up internet access for all of its citizens, whether that is to pay to drop fiber optic cables, if that is to like help low income folks who just simply cannot afford it in certain places.
Subsidized plans.
Stuff like that. So on average, it's close to like $800 million a state. They are still willing to spend that money.
Yes.
Republicans would never do that. By the way, spend that money on one state, $800 million, which is more than Trump spent completely on the entire country.
So here's what else I find interesting. So Joe Biden, like the Biden administration, has partnered as part of this rollout with like 20 or 30 of the biggest like telecom companies in the country because they need to get the ISPs on board, especially to subsidize plans and stuff like that. Right. I find it very interesting that the ISPs are willing to play ball on this, and I have a theory, and I'm curious to know what you think of this theory. I think that the ISPs are getting a little concerned that internet is because the internet is so ubiquitous nowadays that you can make the argument if they want to fucking hardball and not help get this out to people that the FEC is like, or not the FEC, but the FCC is gonna be like, oh, that's cool. So you don't want to fucking help us get internet out to everybody in the country? Let's talk about making this a utility. Then you have to. Yep.
Oops.
So,
look, I think they should do that anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
But if they're doing this to play hardball, to get them on board. Cool. And if they push back, all right, fuck you. It's not a big deal. It's fuck you. But I think it should be a utility. I mean, it should have been a utility fucking 10 years ago.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
It should really be a utility now.
Yeah, it really should be now. I mean, look, Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo is overseeing the distribution and said that the universal access to broadband internet would be akin to the electrification of rural America during the 1930s. Facts, bro. Like
in this day and age, it literally is on that level. 100%.
And they said that more than 30 million Americans don't have the internet, which is crazy, dude. That's
literally
crazy.
10%. It's literally 10% of the country, which you may say, oh, like that doesn't sound like a lot. That's a lot of fucking. That's a lot.
30 million people. That's a lot of people, dude. That's a lot of people. And look, that just means getting access. That doesn't mean everybody got to use it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but you have access. Like, if you want to get a computer to access the internet, you can get it. Now, everybody, there's going to be elderly people. There's going to be, immigrants and things like that are not going to do it. But, dude, 30 million people is crazy. That's a crazy amount of people. Like, in the era of COVID, that's like a lot of people who just can't do homework remotely, right? Like, you couldn't do that shit. Like, I know for very personal connected reasons, like schools handing out like Wi-Fi hotspots, right? That like connected to a cell connection, handing those out to parents so that kids could get internet access, because in Baltimore City, where I live, they still didn't have access at home in 2022 or expensive. 2021. They didn't have access because they couldn't afford it. Some neighborhoods, it just wasn't available, right? Like that's a thing like that we don't talk about a lot in like big cities, like in like really poor areas. They just don't lay the fucking cables.
Yeah,
that's crazy to me. Like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I just can't get Comcast in this part of the city where it's available 5 blocks away. Yeah, we just don't have it. Sorry, because it's not advantageous to us because there's not enough people in your area
to justify the expenditure.
Yeah, so we're just not going to do it. So fuck y'all. We're going to leave you back 20 years into the past, honestly. 20 years in the past. Which spoiler alert, that's why a lot of poor black people, the way they have access to the internet is over their phones. Because you already have a phone. You already have, and if you have a data plan or something like that, you can use the internet. But a lot of black people use their phones as their number one source for the internet, which is crazy. Here's a little bit more details from the Commerce Department. The money could be used to lay fiber optic cable, build out Wi-Fi hotspots, and even reduce monthly charges in places where prices are a main challenge. That's what I was talking about earlier. They even come out and said that they'll provide a $30 monthly subsidy to low-income households to get internet for free. And they will, some people, depending, will just get the internet for free, no matter what, which I thought was pretty dope. And like I said, here's that quote. States in eligible areas are guaranteed a minimum of $100 million, though the average payment would be closer to $800 million, according to the rough estimates from the Commerce Department. $800 million. Again, more than Trump put in for the entire thing. And he only did it in rural America, which, let's get real, that's not that they don't need it, because they need it disproportionately, but it was likely going to go to red states. Yes, and almost nothing to anybody else. Like, it's not like there are blue states that have rural areas. It's crazy, right? Like, yeah, dude. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, that idea of only working towards your constituency and not trying to actually help America, right? That is him trying to do that only in rural America is a very only help white people type of thing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't enough money, so you didn't actually help them at all. See? Like, even your white power like perspective, your America first shit don't work because you guys don't even do the work to actually help your own people. Stop voting for these assholes, man. Stop voting for these assholes. They don't care about you. Next up, Investigators issue subpoena for access to classified documents Trump took back to Mar-a-Lago. I'm just going to leave it at that. Like, that started. And I don't really have much else to say about it, just for timing. Next story. SCOTUS continues to commit to its commitment to destroying campaign integrity. Brad, please take this one. My voice is dying.
Let me pull up the fucking tweet right now. So, like, you know how a couple, decade or so ago, SCOTUS ruled in the Citizens United case that allowed corporations and, shit like dark money to flow in from companies to, donate to political contributions.
Of course.
They're not done. Like, they're not done with this stuff.
Not at all. Not by damn sight.
Yeah. So basically they ruled on Cruz versus the FEC, where the case was to strike down a federal law that prohibited post-election contributions to repay a candidate's personal loans to their campaign. It went down by 6-3 vote. I'll let you guess which justices sat on which side of the fucking ledger on that one. But Mark Joseph Stern, who's a Supreme Court reporter, basically says in a tweet, in plain English, the Supreme Court says that a candidate can loan himself money during a campaign, then collect donations after the election to repay his loans once donors have already known the outcome of the election.
Yeah, they're not going to grift the shit out of this.
I mean, it's already kind of happening now, is it not? With fucking Trump?
Who's responsible? Like, once you get the amount of donations back up, to let's say you loaned yourself $45 million, right? Let's just say, once you hit that $45 million, then what? There's nothing stopping you. You just keep going. Also, with dark money, how do you even know that it hasn't been already paid back? Right? Like, how do you know?
Hello.
Like, so you like, oh, I need to borrow $45 million from myself, and then some dark money asshole's like, all right, no problem.
Yeah,
bro.
once you win. Once you have a seat, some fucking special interest or saddles up along the side. You're like, hey, that all that debt that you took out on yourself, here you go, free and clear.
And then that motherfucker then goes and grifts like, oh, I got to pay all my debts back. Help me.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Elena Kagan dissented. And some of the things that she said, and I'll quote from her, today's decision will permit corruption, crooked exchanges, dirty dealing, and sordid bargains. It injures the integrity, both actual and apparent, of the political process and will bring this country's political system into further disrepute.
It be facts, though. Like she's 100% correct, right? The idea that you could just grift more and more money from people. I mean, look, I guess it's their fault. I mean, Republicans just they love a grifting. They love it. But the fact that you could just get dark money to just throw cash at you and then sucker these people into paying you to fill in your debt is bullshit. Like, that's just bullshit.
Now that being said, apparently the loans are still subject to like the laws on maximum donations. So like you can't donate more than $2,900 to yourself.
Right.
But what's then stopping that candidate from creating a super PAC?
Nothing.
That they just fucking shuttle money into so that it could just cycle back around into them. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, like I got all these loans I got to pay back. So
yeah.
let's fucking make this happen. It's insane that they think that this isn't going to get abused.
No, they know it's going to get abused.
Right, well, yes, it's insane that they're not,
not allowing this.
Yeah,
yeah. No, they know because they benefit from it.
Correct.
I mean, the Republican Party members that are on the SCOTUS, they will benefit from this, right? You do look, the idea of this is actually an easier grift than even we're saying it is. I'm running for office. I'm running for president.
Mm-hmm.
I borrow $100 million from myself, whatever, right? I'm a billionaire. It's not a big deal. I borrow $100 million from myself. I tell all of these special interests, hey, if I win, it's open fucking season, baby. Like you know what the Donald does for you guys, but I'm going to need this amount of money from each of you. Shore up that $100 million that you borrowed, right? You win, you get your $100 million back, and then you start fucking grifting like a motherfucker to all of your support. So not only will you get your $100 million or plus from these corporations who are trying to buy favor from you, you're also going to get hundreds of millions of dollars from your fan base, because they don't know. They're not going to, you don't have a website to keep track of how much debt you're paying back. You just keep, oh, woe is me. Now the Democrats are trying to destroy me or whatever. And you just keep bringing that money in. So you're getting money coming both ways. And then you just give those corporations whatever they want. You don't give the people what they want, because fuck them. The real priority are your big money donors. So
yeah. And again, like the FEC is not going to do anything, because the FEC is a commission that is a even numbered commission that's specifically filled with half Republicans and half Democrats. So like they just voted recently to not really look into the Trump campaign, what he's doing with his money, because they're deadlocked right now.
Right.
So yeah.
It's
super cool and super legal, thanks to the Supreme Courts. Good job, guys.
Everybody's winning. All right, take this next one. This is a wonderful story. And by wonderful, I mean, how did we get here?
Yeah, so like just a reminder that, shitty politics doesn't just happen on one side of the aisle. No, so the DCCC is, much maligned, and especially by folks on the far left that thinks that they conspired specifically to keep Bernie Sanders out of the presidency, but whatever. But their job, the DCCC, is to basically advance the Democratic Party. Like that's literally their job, is to find Democratic candidates and to shuttle money to Democratic candidates that are in competitive seats, especially to flip them to Democratic, and to keep hold of seats that are safely Democratic and firmly Democratic, all this other stuff. And one of the core tenets of the DCCC is that they have a stated policy that they do not primary incumbent Democrats in congressional districts, because they don't want the infighting. Like their whole thing is like, oh, like, we're going to support candidates that, that have been there and gotten there. So like when AOC, for example, when she first came to Congress, was not supported by the DCCC because she was primarying an established Democratic candidate.
Right.
So like they wouldn't support her. But interestingly, apparently those principles don't extend to the DCCC's chair, Sean Patrick Maloney of New York. So what happened is, obviously New York recently redrew their congressional districts, and it put Sean Patrick Maloney into a congressional district from a safely Democratic district that he came from, not like super safe, but like, routinely Democratic, right, into a district that was much more of a purple district. It's actually a Trump +1 district. So that means it's basically 50-50.
Right.
And instead of running in that district, he's actually deciding to run in the new New York 17 district, which happens to be the district occupied by freshman Democratic Congressman Mondaire Jones. And so he's basically forcing Mondaire Jones to go one district over as to not compete with him, because he wants, and he's going to force him to compete with another freshman Democratic Senator, Jamal Bowman.
By the way, just as an aside, both of these young guys, not Maloney, the other two guys, are both young black progressives.
Yes.
Maloney
also
is
correct.
not a progressive. So just to set up the scenario here.
And meanwhile, before we get to the scenario, Maloney doing this is probably going to cede the district that he's coming from to a Republican, therefore giving Republicans another seat in the House, most likely.
So instead of having 3 seats,
Yes.
you're gonna, because you're scared to run against this guy.
Yes.
You're gonna guarantee they get 1, and then you're gonna fuck over this other guy, which might also piss off your constituents.
Yes.
God, you fucking clown. You fucking clown.
And so basically, Maloney has 2 choices. Either he's going to have to run a primary against Jones, which then suggests, like, who's the DCCC going to give money to? The chair of the DCCC or this freshman congressman that he's running against? Or he's going to force Jones.
Which he controls. Should I give money to myself? I don't know, maybe.
Or he can force the 2 progressive black Democratic freshman congressmen to primary each other, or just force one of them out in general. Like if they don't want to have to go up against each other. And the thing is, like, Democrats are like openly pondering, like, is this legit? But they're not really doing. They're fence sitting. They're condemning it, which is insane.
They're stuck, right? Because you don't want to shit on Maloney because he does bring in a lot of money to the DCCC. You don't want to shit on, you can't shit on the 2 black guys because, like, they didn't do anything. Like, what the fuck, man? and you're talking about a more diverse party. You can't attack those guys. They didn't do anything. They stuck to what they were supposed to be doing. Maloney is the one who's making the change. My read of this, like, Maloney should step down. Like, you got to step down. Either from the DCCC or step out of that race.
Yep. But he's one of the younger, like, party leadership, though, that's on the come up. So he's not gonna step out of Congress.
Joe, go back to your other district, man. Come on. What are you doing? I just don't, I don't understand it. Like, why make this difficult for everybody instead of just going back to your district and fighting?
Meanwhile, the district that he's moving to, that Mondaire Jones currently occupies, is a Democrat +10 district, and his argument is that this is a competitive district, and I think and Maloney thinks he's better suited to compete than Mondaire Jones is in this district. You know, it's a D +10. Like
anybody is.
As long as they got a D next to the name, they're fine. Like, it's not that serious.
And you might end up pissing people off where then they want to stay home. Yeah. Don't do that. Like, you could end up losing 2 seats, right? If you really fucked it, you could end up losing 2 seats. And those kind of races, they don't, like, people get pissed off and stuff like that. Like, you could compromise 2, and then you could easily kind of fuck the 3rd guy over if people are just like, you know what, fuck the Democratic Party. Like, dude, like, don't do that. Look, go fight in your own district. Yeah. Just fight in your own district.
And like I said, as overblown,
get the young black progressives to come fucking help you. Fight together, not against each other.
As overblown as the fucking, the far left, like, criticisms of the DCCC and the DNC were in the 2016
this is a fairly
campaign. This is the kind of shit that you do that causes that stuff to fucking happen. Like right. This is the stuff that people can point to and say, look, see, this is why we say this, because you guys are fucking over progressives, you're fucking over minority candidates. And to be fair, Sean Patrick Maloney is gay, so he's also a minority candidate in another way as well.
Right.
But this is dumb. This is incredibly stupid. It's an unforced error. I understand that Sean Patrick Maloney, like, wants to ensure that he hangs on to his seat in Congress, but dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, this is not the way to do it.
No, this is definitely
really
not the way.
This is a really piss poor way of going about it. Hey. Next up, we've hit. I can't believe it's this far down on the docket. We've hit 1 million COVID deaths in the United States.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, we won, everybody. That's pretty bad. Like, that feels pretty bad. I don't know what else to tell you. We should probably not have done that.
No, and I mean, the only silver lining that I can posit is that we probably would have gotten here a lot sooner if Donald Trump had won the presidency.
Oh, 6 months before.
Yeah, at least
6 months before, maybe a year. I mean, it was riding pretty high. Look,
they were over half. They were over half 600,000. Were they not when Trump?
I believe
when Trump left office.
Yeah, I believe when Biden officially came on, it was like over 6.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, thankfully, like, people are vaccinated now, and I mean, people seem to be trying to like return to normal. Obviously, there's a bit of an increase in cases. Not even a bit. It's like a pretty drastic,
pretty significant. Like there are areas of the country that health officials say that people should consider masking indoors. Like that's how bad everything is right now.
Now it does not seem, and we won't know for I guess couple more weeks, like maybe 2 weeks, whether or not deaths will follow that. Right? Seems like this new variant is putting people on their ass when they get it, but they seem to be largely okay. At least from anecdotally, from what I've heard.
I'll let you know. I have a coworker who just caught it, and he sounds like death worn over right now. Talking to him on the phone. Yeah, so we'll hopefully he does okay. But it definitely put him down pretty good. So
yeah, I've got 2 friends who have it, or a friend of mine and her son have it, but they seem to be doing okay. But yeah, anecdotally, I think it definitely hits people hard, but for a couple of days, and then they seem to be largely okay. So hopefully the hospitalizations will stay low, relatively low, and obviously the deaths will stay extremely low. But a lot of this is a lot of people getting a lot of the deaths over the last number of months, over the last like 6 months or so, have been largely people who are unvaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just refuse to get vaccinated. And it's like, surprise, surprise, you got it, and now you're dead. So, I feel sorry for the people who've died, but I don't feel that sorry for the people who just refuse to take a cure. Like
a legitimate cure, a legitimate cure. By the way, like I don't feel sorry for Candace Owens apparently shitting her pants because she decided to take ivermectin.
No, I hope she fills them up and they look like hammer pants by the end of the day. I don't care. Oh, my stomach hurts. Good. Stop taking horse pills, you dum-dum. So yeah, it's a tragic, it's really a tragic number. That is 1/15 of the world, deaths, as the world is at 15 million,
of reported deaths. I mean, I'm sure the actual count is considerably higher.
I'm sure our count is considerably higher than 1 million deaths. So, yeah, it's just a tragedy. It just really is. It's fucking awful. Yep. All right, you want to talk about Israel murdering a journalist?
I do. So last week,
fun times, Brad.
Shireen Abu Akleh was, who was a reporter for a very long time on Al Jazeera, was shot and killed while reporting on a raid of the West Bank in Jenin. And she was killed by members of the Israeli Defense Force, which is the Israeli army, essentially. Right. And they tried to say that, she just got caught in crossfire, this, that, or the other thing. Here's the problem with that. Number one, the Israeli army have murdered many, many, many Palestinian journalists going back to the year 2000. The other thing is a statement that came out from the Israeli military, from their spokesperson, Ran Kochav. And I'm going to quote him directly. "They're armed with cameras, if you'll permit me to say so." Talking about journalists, comparing them to an opposing force, essentially, that the IDF has to fight against. Mm-hmm. And then to make matters worse.
Yeah, that statement is fucked, bro. Like, what are you talking about? Jesus.
To make matters worse, 2 days later, after she was killed, mourners carried her casket through East Jerusalem for her funeral. And people are saying, "Oh, this is the largest gathering we've seen since Yasser Arafat died back in 2004." And as they carried the casket out of a Jerusalem hospital, Israeli police attacked the mourners with batons and stun grenades.
It's on video,
and pallbearers almost dropped her coffin as they were carrying it.
Yeah, the IDF's attack on journalism or journalists specifically is nuts. Like, I think this article points out there's been like 100 journalists have been like either killed or injured. I mean, that's
50
insane.
Palestinian journalists specifically killed.
Yes, 50. Reporters Without Borders has recorded more than 144 journalists injured in the last 4 years. If it's a pattern of unlawful killing and also a pattern of targeting journalists and human rights defenders. Look, yeah, they say she was shot in the face, which is really fucking horrendous.
And her producer, who was there on the scene with her as an eyewitness to the account, said that there were no armed Palestinian fighters anywhere near her.
Right.
And that they just targeted her and killed her in cold blood. Because they knew who she was, because she was like one of the leading voices reporting the Palestinian side of the conflict to Al Jazeera viewers for many, many years.
Right.
The thing that kills me, the thing that kills me is that we still can't get past being able to talk about this in a mature manner, and we still can't because Israel, promotes this narrative. We can't get past it, but we can't divorce the actions of the Israeli government from the Israeli people. Like we, for some reason, if you're seen attacking one, you're assumed to be attacking the other, and then you're labeled an anti-Semite and this, that, or the other thing. Right. And it's not the same. Like, the Israeli government, the Israeli military fucking sucks. Like it is a shitty fucking government. Israel is a functioning apartheid state at this point. It is. And that doesn't have anything. Yeah, that doesn't have anything to do with the Israeli people. It doesn't have anything to do with Jewish people. It's just calling a fact a fact. It's just calling out what's true. Palestinians are a second-class citizen in that country. They're not even, I mean, they're barely a citizen in that country, but it is like historians and people who covered South Africa in the 80s during the apartheid, regime, basically look at what Israel's doing and they're like, no, it's the fucking same. Like if you called South Africa an apartheid state, you got to call Israel an apartheid state.
Yeah, look, I wish I wish I could say I'm surprised. I'm not. Like, when this initially came out, it's like, well, was it the IDF? Was it the Palestinians? And like, almost the immediate news was like, no, dude, this is the IDF. And I'm like,
yeah,
let's all pretend like we're shocked. And it makes sense, right?
And who's going to investigate it? The IDF. Like they're going to get to investigate themselves.
We investigated ourselves, and we have found that we have done nothing wrong. Like,
right, naturally.
So, she was shot by an M16 bullet, I believe, and both sides use the same type of guns. So they're like, well, we wouldn't be able to find an answer unless we got our hands on actual fired rifles and could compare it. Yeah, well, that's not going to happen. I mean, let's get real. It's like, oh, did John, you shot her? Oh, that's cool. Let's throw that fucking gun away, right? Like, that gun's never going to be used again. It's never going to be found. There is no argument to justify what that first guy said, which is like, hey, like, they're armed with cameras. Like, that's just as bad, basically, as a gun. No, the fuck it isn't. And there seems to be a real step up, and obviously it's not a wild step up in this part of the world, but there definitely seems to be a big step up in just like open violence against journalists, right? It's not lost on me that like we listen to the rhetoric that's used here against journalists as well. But, killing of Khashoggi was, absolutely fucking grisly. Like, you just murdered this guy with a fucking chainsaw? Like, what the fuck? And they're just like, who's to say what happened, right? And it's just like, we just blow it off. This woman is shot directly in the face. I mean, it's horrendous. Right. I just wish that, there was sort of an independent organization that could actually have teeth to go after these guys, but there isn't. So they just investigate themselves.
And again, it doesn't. The only real consequence that they would have to pay is, reducing of aid and stuff like that. And if we're not going to reduce, aiding the Saudi government, despite their obvious grievances, like they sure shit ain't going to reduce payments going to Israel.
No, those are two people that we are in bed, or two groups of, or two countries that we're in bed with, that like, it doesn't matter what they do, we ain't leaving.
Yeah.
We're just never going to leave. We don't have,
and it becomes, and again, it becomes a difficult thing for Democrats to maneuver as well politically, because Republicans, they just sit there fucking waited with bated breath, like waiting to speak out and call you anti-Israeli and this or the other thing. And you also, on the Democratic side, you have like AIPAC that's there, like willing to give whatever money you need to folks that are staunchly and vociferously pro-Israel no matter what. Like, they do not give money to candidates that speak critically of the Israeli government. They don't.
Keep your money.
Yep,
you can keep it. Like, look, I don't like right-wingers here. I don't like right-wingers there. Like, I don't. Just because Netanyahu is out doesn't mean that the government isn't still run by a bunch of right-wing assholes. And it is. Mm-hmm. So, no, it's a real shame that happened to this woman. It really is. I don't know her work personally, but clearly she had a massive impact via Al Jazeera. So enough that they knew who she was to kill her, which is fucking awful. All right, I scrapped the last story, but I think that is plenty this week. Any parting words, Brad?
I'm really interested to see where the discussion goes of this fucking fight back against, the white replacement principle that a lot of folks on the right. It's really interesting that to watch like Tucker Carlson and certain people, like, they're not running away from this, they're doubling down, which is an insane fucking thing to see them do in the wake of this. Like, it's not like the killer's reasons in the Buffalo shooting were ambiguous. Like, it's all right there.
Right.
And that you parroted this stuff, and your goal is to hunker down and just be like, yeah, I said it, so what, motherfucker? Like, yeah, like that's. But the thing is, Tucker Carlson's right. Like, he's not gonna really pay a consequence. I hope the people that advertise on his show pay attention to that. But the problem is, I think most of the like legitimate advertisers left that show anyway a long time ago.
No,
and
dude, I think they're gone. They are.
Yeah, I think he's down to just bullshit advertisement at this point.
Yeah, it's like fucking gold bars and like MREs,
My Pillow, and
like nonsense
shit.
So yeah, no, he don't have no friends. No, nobody's there paying real money for his bullshit. All right, that is it for us. This is a super packed show. I almost kind of want to put it out for free. I got to tell you, I thought it was really good. We'll see about my laziness, because I have to do a lot of editing when I make free episodes. It's twice the amount of editing. All right, that is it for us, and we will see you guys next week.
See ya.